Moving on now, President Donald Trump, with just 2 months left in office, asked for options on attacking Iran's main nuclear site last week. A US official claims that while Trump asked for options, he ultimately decided against taking this dramatic step. Now, according to reports, Trump made the request during an Oval Office meeting on Thursday with his top national security aides. Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, new Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller and General Mark Milley, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, all attended this meeting. The official confirmed the account of the meeting in the New York Times, which reported that the advisors persuaded Trump not to go ahead with the strike because of the risk of a broader conflict.
Three people have been detained in police raids across Berlin over a jewel heist reportedly worth over $1 billion, according to local authorities. Thieves forced their way into Dresden's Green Vault Museum in November last year, taking off with at least 3 sets of early 18th century jewellery, including diamonds and rubies. The police force said officers searched 18 apartments, garages and vehicles for the jewellery and other evidence, including digital data, clothes and tools. Over 1,600 police are said to have taken part in the raids, and it may cause serious traffic disruptions across the city. Germany's Bild newspaper reported that the stolen jewels were worth up to $1.19 billion. One of its best-known treasures, the 41-carat Dresden green diamond, was away on loan at New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art at the time of the break-in.
Legislators finally agreed to seal the power vacuum. They selected 76-year-old Francisco Sagasti as Peru's Congress president, and as such, the country's new interim president. He immediately addressed the political crisis.
What we are seeing on the streets now is the anger that we must recognize, accept and channel through peaceful means to help prosper as a country.
A day before he's sworn in, Sagasti signaled the new government will listen to the concerns of young Peruvians.
Today is not a day of celebration because we've seen the deaths of 2 young protesters who expressed their point of view democratically and practically without violence. We cannot bring them back to life, but we can, from Congress, take measures in order for this not to happen again.
Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan is paying a hefty price for his opportunism. Just look at what's happening in Pakistan. Hardliners have taken over the streets. Extremists are running amok. Last month, the Pakistani Prime Minister ignited a fire. He accused the French President Emmanuel Macron of Islamophobia. He targeted Macron for going after radical Islam. But with his words, Imran Khan unleashed chaos within his own country. These are hardliners of Tehreek-e-Labbaik, the far-right Islamist political party in Pakistan. They held an entire country hostage when Asia Bibi was acquitted of her blasphemy charges. And now they are back on the streets to express their outrage against cartoons of Prophet Muhammad, egged on by Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan.
Hungary and Poland's veto of the EU's €1 trillion pandemic recovery fund could throw the continent into crisis. On Monday, at an ambassadors' meeting in Brussels, the 2 countries objected to its approval in protest at the bloc's latest rule of law proposal, which links EU payouts to the respect for democratic norms. This includes problems of media freedom and judicial independence. For the Hungarian government, though, it's just a political weapon to be used against them. The Budget and Pandemic Recovery Fund contains nearly €2 trillion in grants and loans to help member states overcome the economic fallout post-coronavirus. But the EU can only go ahead with it if all member states agree. Any further delay could be devastating for the economy.
At Soweto's Orlando station, Hloni Toporo waits for a train that may never come.
It has been leading up to this, you know.
When South Africa emerged from one of the world's strictest lockdowns 2 months ago, it found that organized and sometimes armed gangs had been busy, stripping power cables out of dozens of stations nationwide for the valuable copper inside. That's left an already crumbling transport network relied on by millions of the working class on its knees. An increasingly unreliable train service has already contributed to a drop in annual train trips threefold over the past decade. And Toporo, who walks to work most days despite the risk of street muggings, says people illegally boarding trains is also part of the problem.
Together with the already existing issue of increasing intensive care unit capacity, the real challenge is finding enough specialists who can operate breathing machines. With a total of 5,000 extra doctors needed as a result of the pandemic, Italy's long-term problem of a lack of medical staff has got worse. Since the beginning of the outbreak, the government has planned to increase the number of ICU beds from the existing 5,200 with the aim to reach a total of around 11,000. Hiring trainee doctors who have not yet finished their studies has proved to be one solution. In regions in the north of the country, such as Piemonte and Lombardy, local authorities have even turned to NGOs for help, asking them to send doctors from around the world.
Reversing course amid a deteriorating situation. South Korea is set to reimpose coronavirus social distancing requirements just a month after easing them. In Greater Seoul and the eastern province of Gangwon, gatherings of 100 or more people will be banned. Religious services and sporting events limited to 30% capacity. Restaurants and bars required to increase the distance between guests. Officials say the measures are necessary now to prevent even harsher restrictions later. The move comes as daily confirmed COVID-19 cases in South Korea have topped 200 for the past 4 days. Known infections have been in triple digits for over a week. The country had so far been a model of success in the fight against the virus, with only around 30,000 total cases. And while its practice of tracking and releasing details of infected persons' movements has raised serious privacy concerns, it had until recently largely returned to normal life.
C'est des barres de chocolat noisette. Central America is facing its second major hurricane in as many weeks. This is Nicaragua as Hurricane Iota approached landfall. A storm surge of up to 6 metres and winds of 250 kilometres an hour battered northern beaches. Iota made landfall in Nicaragua just 25 kilometres from where Hurricane Eta struck 2 weeks ago. It killed more than 120 people. Residents traumatised by Eta fled again. Iota crossed the Caribbean as a Category 5 hurricane. It's the strongest storm ever recorded in the Atlantic this late in the year. Records began in 1851.